They threw her out in the rain, a young mother standing at the gates with 6-week-old twins screaming in her arms, watching the mansion lights blaze behind locked iron bars. The security guard wouldn't even look her in the eye. Her wealthy husband's family had just evicted her with one suitcase and 48 hours' notice. They called her nothing, a gold digger, a poor nurse who'd trapped their son. And as she stood there in that freezing November rain, they had absolutely no idea who she really was. What the Carmichael family didn't know, what they never bothered to ask, was that the helpless woman they just destroyed, she'd been building a secret empire right under their noses. While they humiliated her at family dinners, she was making million-dollar investment decisions at midnight. While they plotted to take her children, she was turning $8 million into something they couldn't even imagine. This is the story of a woman who let powerful people underestimate her, who played poor while she was rich, who lost everything visible while gaining everything that mattered. And when they finally dragged her into court to take her babies, that's when she revealed the truth that shattered their entire world. If you've ever been underestimated, dismissed, or told you were nothing, this story is for you. Stick around until the end, because the courtroom reveal will give you chills. And if this story resonates with you, hit that like button, drop a comment telling me what you do in Maya's situation, and subscribe so you never miss stories about people who refuse to stay down. Trust me, you'll want to hear every single second of what happens next. Now let me take you back to where it all began. The rain came down in sheets that November night, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones and stays there. Maya Sullivan stood outside the iron gates of the Carmichael estate at 10 minutes past midnight, her arms aching from holding two car seats. Inside each carrier, a 6-week-old baby screamed, Sophia on the left, Emma on the right, her daughters, her world. The security guard wouldn't meet her eyes. "Ma'am, I have my orders," he said, his voice barely audible over the storm. "You're not on the approved list anymore." Maya's suitcase lay in a puddle at her feet, already soaked through. She'd packed in such a hurry that she'd forgotten half of what the babies needed. Diapers, the good bottles, Emma's favorite blanket. "I live here," Maya said, and she hated how her voice broke on that last word. "My babies need to be inside. They need to be warm and dry, please." The guard looked away. "I'm sorry, ma'am. You'll need to leave the property." Behind him, the mansion glowed with golden light. Every window blazed. Maya could see figures moving inside. Derek, his mother Eleanor, his father Robert. They were watching. They were waiting for her to break. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction. Maya picked up her suitcase with her free hand, turned away from the only home her daughters had ever known, and walked into the darkness. But this story doesn't start here. It starts 4 years earlier, when Maya Sullivan made the biggest mistake of her life. She fell in love with a man who couldn't stand up to his mother. Let me take you back to 2015. Maya was 25 years old, working the overnight shift in a Philadelphia emergency room. She wore scrubs that had seen better days and drove a Honda that was older than her relationship with her last boyfriend. To anyone watching, she was just another nurse trying to make it in a city that didn't care about people like her. But Maya had a secret. During her break one night, she sat in the hospital cafeteria with her phone, checking her banking app the way other people check social media. When the numbers loaded, she quickly glanced around to make sure no one could see her screen. Balance, $8,247,000. She closed the app immediately, her heart racing the way it always did when she looked at that number. It had been 5 years since her father died. 5 years since she'd learned that the quiet software engineer who'd raised her as a single dad had sold his medical billing company to Microsoft for $40 million. 5 years since she'd inherited $8 million in a trust fund that nobody knew existed. Maya could still remember her father's final words. David Sullivan had been dying of pancreatic cancer, his body failing but his mind sharp until the very end. "Maya girl, listen to me," he'd said, his hand cold in hers. "Money changes people. Not you, the people around you. Don't tell anyone about this money until you're absolutely sure they love you for who you are. Promise me." She'd promised, and she'd kept that promise every single day since. So Maya worked as a nurse because she loved it. She lived in a tiny apartment in a neighborhood that made her mother worry. She drove that ancient Honda and wore scrubs from Target, and she let her inheritance grow quietly. Managed by Thomas Wright, her father's best friend and the only person alive who knew the truth. The irony wasn't lost on her. She could have quit working years ago, could have traveled the world, could have lived in luxury. Instead, she mopped up blood and held the hands of dying patients and tried to save lives one shift at a time, because her father had taught her something more valuable than money. He'd taught her that character matters, that you find out who you really are when nobody's watching, that the measure of a person has nothing to do with their bank account. Maya thought about that lesson a lot in the years that followed, especially on the night her life changed forever. It was a hospital fundraiser, black tie optional. Maya had almost skipped it, but her supervisor, Linda Mitchell, had insisted. "You need to get out of this place," Linda had said, practically shoving Maya toward the exit. "You work too much. You never have fun. Go, drink the free wine. Pretend you're a person who does things besides save ungrateful people's lives." So Maya had gone. She'd worn a simple black dress from a consignment shop and felt completely out of place among the pharmaceutical reps and hospital administrators in their designer everything. She was standing by the bar, nursing a glass of wine and wondering if she could slip out without Linda noticing, when a man's voice behind her said, "You're not enjoying the champagne and small talk, are you?" Maya turned. The man was tall, maybe 33, with dark hair and the kind of smile that probably got him whatever he wanted. He wore his tuxedo like he was born in it. "That obvious?" Maya asked. "I'm Derek," he said, extending his hand. "And you look like the only real person in this room." That should have been her first warning. Men who say things like that are usually running from something. But Maya was 25 and tired, and maybe a little bit lonely, so she shook his hand and said, "I'm Maya, and you're absolutely right. I hate small talk." They talked for 3 hours. Derek was charming in that effortless way that comes from a lifetime of privilege. He told her about his family's business, about growing up in Connecticut, about his prep school and his time at Yale. He asked her questions and actually listened to the answers. He made her laugh. When he asked for her number, Maya said yes. What she didn't see was the woman watching them from across the room. Eleanor Carmichael, Derek's mother, stood with a group of similarly dressed women, her eyes locked on her son and the nurse in the cheap dress. "Oh God," Eleanor said to her friend, not bothering to lower her voice. "He's found another charity case. This one's a nurse? How quaint." She took a sip of her champagne, her expression one of practiced boredom. "Give it 6 months," she continued. "Derek likes to play savior, but he always comes back to his senses eventually. They always do." Her friend laughed. "You really should let the poor boy live his life, Eleanor." "Oh, I will," Eleanor said, her smile cold. "Right up until the moment he tries to marry her. Then I'll remind him exactly who he is, and more importantly, who she isn't." But Maya didn't hear any of that. She was too busy falling for Derek Carmichael, the man who would eventually break her heart, steal from her, and try to take her children. If she could go back to that night, knowing everything that would come after, would she still have said yes when he asked for her number? Sometimes she wondered about that, but then she'd look at Sophia and Emma, and she'd know the answer. Some mistakes give you the most beautiful gifts, even if they cost you everything else. Derek Carmichael courted Maya the way wealthy men court women they find fascinating. Expensive dinners at restaurants where Maya felt underdressed no matter what she wore. Weekend trips to his family's summer house in the Hamptons. Flowers delivered to the hospital with cards that said things like, "Thinking of you while you save the world." Maya let herself fall, against her better judgment, against every warning her mother gave her over the phone. She fell hard and fast. "There's something I should tell you," Maya said one night, 3 months into their relationship. They were in Derek's apartment, a penthouse overlooking the city that probably cost more than most people made in a year. "About my father, about what he left me." Derek pulled her close, kissing her forehead. "Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. I love you, Maya. Just you. Not your history or your family or anything else. Just the woman sitting right here." Maya hesitated. Those were exactly the right words. So perfect that some small voice in her head whispered that maybe they were too perfect. "I love you too," she said instead of confessing. She told herself she was protecting the relationship. In reality, she was testing him. And in the back of her mind, her father's warning echoed, "Don't tell anyone until you're sure." Was she sure? Could anyone ever be truly sure? The proposal came on their 6-month anniversary. Derek took her to the spot where they'd first met, the hospital courtyard where the fundraiser had been held. He got down on one knee with a ring that probably cost more than a car. "Marry me," he said. "Build a life with me. I promise I'll spend every day trying to deserve you." Maya said yes, and she still didn't tell him about the money. Meeting Derek's family should have been the second warning. Maybe it was, but Maya was too in love to hear it. The Carmichael mansion wasn't just big. It was the kind of big that was designed to intimidate. Marble columns, a circular driveway, windows that seemed to judge you as you approached. Eleanor Carmichael answered the door herself, which Maya would later learn was unusual. The family had staff for that, but Eleanor wanted to get a good look at the woman her son planned to marry. "So, you're Maya," Eleanor said, her eyes traveling from Maya's shoes to her face in one quick, dismissive sweep. "Derek's been quite secretive about you. Now I see why. Come in." The dinner that followed was 3 hours of subtle torture. Robert Carmichael, Derek's father, barely acknowledged Maya's existence. He addressed all his comments to Derek, asking about business matters and family friends Maya had never heard of. Victoria, Derek's sister, was worse. She smiled and said sweet things that had edges sharp enough to draw blood. "Nursing must be so fulfilling," Victoria said, her tone suggesting it was anything but. "I could never handle being around sick people all day. You must be so strong. Or maybe just used to it." Maya smiled tightly and said nothing, but Eleanor saw the look on her face. "Maya, dear, where did you say your family was from?" Eleanor asked. "Pennsylvania, small town outside Pittsburgh." "How lovely." Eleanor's smile didn't reach her eyes. "And your parents?" "My father passed away. He worked in tech. My mother teaches high school English." "Oh." The single syllable contained volumes. Eleanor exchanged a glance with Robert. It was the kind of look that said, "This is worse than we thought." Derek, to his credit, tried. "Mom, Dad, Maya's amazing. She's smart and kind, and she makes me want to be better." "Of course, darling," Eleanor said. "We're delighted for you, aren't we, Robert?" Robert made a non-committal sound that could have meant anything. Later, when Maya excused herself to the bathroom, she passed by Robert's study. The door was cracked open just enough for her to hear the conversation inside. "She trapped him," Robert was saying. "A nurse sees a wealthy man and—" "We don't know that yet," Eleanor interrupted. "But we don't have to make it easy for her either. If she's after the money, she'll reveal herself eventually. If she truly loves him, well, let's just say some people simply don't belong in our world." "What are you suggesting?" Derek's voice. Maya's heart stopped. "Nothing dramatic," Eleanor said smoothly. "Just that we maintain certain standards, certain expectations. Women like her either rise to meet them or they don't. And if she doesn't, Derek will see it himself. He's a smart boy. He knows what he needs in a partner." Maya stood frozen in the hallway, her hand on her pregnant belly that nobody knew about yet. She should have left right then, should have walked out and never looked back. But she loved him. God help her, she loved him. So instead, she went back to the dining room and smiled and made small talk and pretended she hadn't heard anything. And when Derek asked her later if his family had liked her, she lied and said yes. That was her third mistake. After not telling him about the money and ignoring the warnings, this was the worst one. She decided to stay and prove them wrong. She decided that love would be enough. It never is, when you're fighting people who've already decided you're the enemy. They married on a Saturday in May. Small ceremony. Maya's mother came from Pennsylvania. Derek's family attended but didn't help plan anything. Eleanor arrived 15 minutes late and left early, claiming a headache. "She seems nice," Maya's mother said doubtfully, watching Eleanor's departure. "She's warming up to me," Maya lied. Her mother gave her a look that said she knew better, but all she said was, "Baby, some families don't know how to share their sons. Just promise me you'll remember who you are. Don't let them make you small." "I promise, Mom." But promises are easy to make and hard to keep, especially when you're moving into a mansion where everyone speaks in whispers and none of them are about anything good. The Carmichael estate had a guest suite. That's where Derek and Maya lived for the first year of their marriage. Not in the main house exactly. In a wing that felt separate but wasn't. Close enough that Eleanor could drop by whenever she wanted, far enough that Maya felt like a visitor in her own home. Derek's career in the family business meant long hours, late nights, weekend meetings. Maya found herself alone most of the time, wandering the halls of a house that would never be hers. She should have been miserable, and in many ways she was. But Maya had a secret that made the loneliness bearable. Every night after Derek fell asleep, she'd open her laptop and check in with Thomas Wright. "Your portfolio's doing well," Thomas would say via encrypted video call. "The biotech investment is up 42% this quarter." "Good," Maya would whisper. "How much total?" "9,200,000. Maya would nod, close her laptop, and lie awake wondering why she still hadn't told Derek. At first, it had been a test. Then it had become a habit. Now it felt like survival, because somewhere deep down she was starting to realize the truth. Derek loved her, yes, but he loved his family more. And his family had already decided she wasn't good enough. The money she'd inherited wasn't just wealth anymore. It was insurance, a safety net she might need. She just didn't know yet how desperately she'd need it, or how far the Carmichaels would go to take everything from her, including her own children. 3 months after moving into the Carmichael estate, Maya missed her period, then missed another one. She'd been feeling exhausted, nauseous in the mornings, emotional in ways that didn't feel like her normal self. When the pregnancy test showed 2 pink lines, Maya sat on the bathroom floor and cried. She wanted to feel happy. This was supposed to be good news. A baby. A family. Proof that she and Derek were building something real together. But all she could think about was Eleanor's cold eyes and Robert's dismissive silence, and the way Derek had stopped defending her somewhere around month 2 of living under his parents' roof. Still, maybe a baby would change things. Maybe becoming a grandmother would soften Eleanor. Maybe Derek would finally stand up to his family. Maybe this was exactly what they all needed. Maya scheduled the ultrasound without telling anyone. She wanted to be sure everything was okay before she said anything. The technician moved the wand over her belly, squinting at the screen. "Well," the technician said, grinning, "I hope you're ready for an adventure. You're having twins." Twins. 2 babies. Maya stared at the screen, watching 2 tiny heartbeats flicker. "Are you okay?" the technician asked. "You look pale." "I'm fine," Maya lied. "I'm just surprised." Surprise didn't begin to cover it. Terrified was closer. She'd been planning to tell Derek about the babies that night. Now she had to figure out how to tell him about 2 babies, how to tell his family, how to survive what came next. Maya spent 3 days planning the perfect announcement. She cooked her grandmother's pot roast, the recipe that had won competitions back in Pennsylvania. She set the dining room table herself, using the good china that the Carmichaels usually reserved for important guests. She even bought a pair of tiny baby shoes and planned to put them in the center of the table as a hint. Everything had to be perfect. Everything had to be right. The dinner started well enough. Derek, Eleanor, Robert, and Victoria all arrived on time. They sat in their usual seats. Maya brought out the appetizers, feeling her heart pound with nervous excitement. Then Eleanor said, "Oh, I forgot to mention, I invited someone special to join us." The dining room door opened and a woman walked in. She was beautiful in that effortless way that money buys: perfect hair, perfect makeup, a designer dress that probably cost more than Maya's nursing salary for a month. "Vanessa!" Derek stood up, his face lighting up in a way it rarely did anymore. "I had no idea you'd be here." "Eleanor invited me," Vanessa Blake said, kissing Derek's cheek. "Said something about an acquisition that my firm might be interested in. I couldn't pass up a chance to catch up with you." Maya watched from the doorway, the baby shoes heavy in her pocket. She watched Derek and Vanessa talk, their heads close together, laughing about shared memories from prep school. She watched Eleanor smile with satisfaction. This was planned. All of it. Eleanor had known Maya was going to make an announcement tonight. Had known and deliberately sabotaged it. "Maya, dear," Eleanor called, "why don't you join us? You remember Vanessa, don't you? Derek's friend from school." Friend, right. The way Eleanor said it made clear that Vanessa was something Maya could never be. One of them. Old money, right family, right schools, right everything. Maya sat down, poured wine for everyone except herself, a detail nobody seemed to notice. watched as Derek spent the first hour of dinner catching up with Vanessa, barely looking at his own wife. Finally, when there was a pause in the conversation, Maya stood up. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. Actually, I have some news, she said. Something important to share. Everyone turned to look at her. Eleanor's expression was carefully neutral. Robert looked mildly annoyed at the interruption. Victoria was scrolling through her phone, barely paying attention. Derek finally focused on her, offering an apologetic smile. Derek and I are having a baby, Maya said. Actually, we're having twins. The silence that followed was absolute. It stretched on for what felt like an hour, but was probably only 15 seconds. Eleanor's face tightened. Oh, well, I suppose these things happen. How far along? Robert asked, his tone suggesting this was a business transaction rather than family news. 3 months. I just found out it's twins. Victoria finally looked up from her phone, each buying, oh my God, Maya, your body's going to be destroyed, like completely wrecked. I mean, congratulations and everything, but wow, 2 babies? That's intense. Vanessa stood up, clearly uncomfortable. Congratulations, I should probably… Nonsense, Eleanor interrupted. Stay, Vanessa. Family news doesn't change business. Derek, why don't you show Vanessa those quarterly reports? I'm sure Maya won't mind. She must be exhausted anyway, carrying twins. Derek hesitated. Maya could see it on his face. The moment of choice. His wife pregnant with his children, or his mother's expectations. Just give me 20 minutes, he said to Maya, already moving toward the study. This is important. And just like that, Maya was alone at the table with his family. The pot roast sat getting cold. The baby shoes stayed in her pocket. And Eleanor Carmichael smiled. You know, Eleanor said, her voice conversational, Robert's cousin married a girl much like you. Sweet thing. Got pregnant right away. Thought it would secure her position in the family. She paused, taking a sip of wine. It didn't end well. She couldn't keep up with the lifestyle, all those society events, the charitable obligations, the expectations. Eventually, she had to move back to wherever she came from, some small town nobody had heard of. Eleanor's eyes locked on Maya's. Some people simply aren't built for this world, dear. No matter how hard they try. Maya stood up, walked to the bathroom on shaking legs, locked the door behind her and looked at herself in the mirror. Her face was pale, her eyes bright with unshed tears. She touched her stomach, feeling the slight swell there. I will protect you, she whispered to her unborn babies. I promise, whatever it takes, whoever I have to become, I will protect you. She had no idea then what that promise would cost her. No idea that protection would require her to become someone her father might not have recognized. Someone harder, someone colder, someone who could look at suffering and calculate its worth. But that night in the Carmichael Mansion bathroom, Maya Sullivan began to change. The transformation was subtle at first, invisible, but it was happening, and it would change everything. That night, after the dinner guests had left and Derek had finally finished his business discussions, Maya couldn't sleep. She lay awake listening to Derek's steady breathing, her mind racing. At 2 in the morning, she got up, padded quietly downstairs for a glass of water. As she passed Robert's study, she heard voices. The door was cracked open just slightly. Maya knew she shouldn't listen, knew it was wrong, did it anyway. She trapped him, Robert was saying. A nurse sees a wealthy family and gets pregnant. It's the oldest trick in the book. Twins, no less, Eleanor added, as if one wouldn't have been enough to cement her position. She's smarter than I gave her credit for. What do we do? That was Derek's voice. Maya's heart stopped. She waited for him to defend her, to tell his parents they were wrong, to stand up for his wife and unborn children. You don't do anything yet, Eleanor said. Let her think she's won. Let her have her little victory. But Robert and I will make her position here untenable. Cold shoulders, social exclusion, subtle pressure. Women like her always leave when they realize they don't belong. They always do. Mom, that seems, Derek started. Unnecessary? Eleanor's laugh was sharp. Derek, darling, do you really think she's the one? Can you honestly see her hosting your business dinners, managing your household, raising children who'll need to understand our world? She doesn't fit. You know it. We know it. Soon enough, she'll know it too. There was a long pause. Maya held her breath, praying for Derek to disagree, to fight, to choose her. I'll handle it, he finally said. Just give me time. Maya stood in the hallway, one hand on her pregnant belly, and felt something inside her break. Not her heart, that would come later. This was something deeper, the last piece of naivety, the final shred of hope that love would be enough. She walked back upstairs to their bedroom, opened her laptop, sent an encrypted message to Thomas Wright. I need to accelerate everything. How aggressive can we get with the investments? Thomas's reply came 30 minutes later. As aggressive as you want. What's going on? Maya stared at the screen, typed, I'm building an exit strategy, and when I leave, I'm taking everything I came with, plus everything I built. They think I'm desperate. They think I need them. They have no idea what's coming. Good, Thomas wrote back. Your father would be proud. What's your target? Maya thought about Eleanor's cold smile, Robert's dismissive tone, Derek's cowardice. She thought about her daughters growing up in a house where they'd be made to feel small and unworthy. She thought about survival and what it truly meant. 50 million in 3 years, she typed. Can we do it? With your insights on healthcare tech and the market timing? Yes, it'll be aggressive. High risk, but possible. Then let's do it. Maya closed the laptop and lay back down next to Derek. He was still sleeping, oblivious to the fact that his wife was planning a war he'd never see coming. Because that's what this had become. Not a marriage, not a family, a war. And Maya Sullivan had just learned the most important lesson of her life. When someone tells you who they are, believe them the first time. When someone shows you that you don't matter, start planning for the day you'll make them regret it. She didn't want revenge, not yet. She just wanted protection, safety, options. But revenge, that would come later, and it would be spectacular. The next 4 months passed in a strange duality. On the surface, Maya was the obedient daughter-in-law, the dutiful pregnant wife. She attended family dinners where Eleanor made subtle digs about her weight gain. She smiled through Victoria's Instagram posts that somehow always managed to exclude her from family photos. She watched Derek pull away more each day, working later, coming home less. But underneath, in the hours between midnight and dawn, when the mansion was finally quiet, Maya was building something they'd never see coming. Tell me about Meditech AI, Maya said to Thomas during one of their late-night calls. The Series B is closing soon, right? You've been doing your homework, Thomas said, impressed. Yes, they're developing artificial intelligence for early disease detection. Revolutionary stuff, but highly speculative. I see it in the ER every day, Maya said, her voice low. Doctors miss things. Overworked, understaffed, human error. AI that can catch patterns and we miss? That's not speculative. That's inevitable. Put in 500,000. That's aggressive. I know. Thomas paused. Maya, what's going on there? You sound different. I'm pregnant with twins and living with people who hate me, Maya said flatly. Different doesn't begin to cover it. Just make the investment. He did, and 3 months later, when Google acquired Meditech AI, Maya's 500,000 turned into 2.8 million. It was the first of many wins. Twins Sophia and Emma were born on a Tuesday morning in late September. Derek was there for the birth, holding Maya's hand and crying when he first saw his daughters. For 24 hours, Maya let herself hope. Maybe this would change everything. Maybe fatherhood would help him find his spine. Eleanor visited once, stayed for exactly 15 minutes, never held either baby. They're very small, she said, as if size were a character flaw. I suppose that's to be expected with twins. You'll have your hands full. She left without saying congratulations. Robert sent flowers with a card that read best wishes in handwriting that clearly wasn't his. Victoria posted a photo on Instagram, best aunt ever, with a picture of herself holding the twins. The caption didn't mention Maya at all. Derek bought cigars and called his friends, hired a baby nurse without asking Maya's opinion, then went back to work 2 days later, leaving Maya alone in the mansion with 2 newborns and a staff that took orders from Eleanor, not her. That's when Maya realized the truth. Nothing was going to change. Nothing would ever change. These people had decided who she was on day one, and no amount of love or effort or even grandchildren would shift their opinion. So she stopped trying, and instead she started building. The montage of that first year would look like two different lives if you could see it. On one side, Maya, exhausted mother, isolated wife, woman slowly being crushed by the weight of other people's expectations. On the other side, Maya, brilliant investor, strategic thinker, woman building an empire with surgical precision. Month 4 after the twins were born, Eleanor made a comment at dinner about Maya's post-pregnancy weight. "You really should think about getting back to the gym, dear. Derek's business associates will be judging." Most that night, Maya received an email. Her investment in a genomics company had just gone public. Value of $4.2 million. Month 8, Victoria accidentally uploaded a photo of a family gathering to Instagram. Everyone was there except Maya, who'd been cropped out of the shot. The caption, "Family time is the best time." That night, Maya's pharmaceutical play paid off. A company she'd invested in early announced FDA approval for a breakthrough medication. Her portfolio hit $12 million. Month 12. Derek came home at 11 p.m. smelling like perfume that wasn't Maya's. He claimed it was from a business dinner. Didn't meet her eyes when he said it. That night, Thomas Wright called with news. Meditech AI had split its stock. Maya's remaining shares were now worth another $1 million. Total portfolio, $15.6 million. Maya tracked every win on a spreadsheet that lived in an encrypted folder labeled family photos. She watched the numbers climb. 8 million became 10, 10 became 12, 12 became 15. Every insult sharpened her focus. Every lonely night fueled her research. While Eleanor thought Maya was crying in her bedroom, she was reading SEC filings and market analyses. While Derek assumed his wife was overwhelmed and exhausted, which she was, he had no idea she was also building financial independence that would eventually destroy his entire family's sense of superiority. The twins turned 18 months old. They were beautiful, healthy, brilliant little girls who said "Mama" and "Dada" and filled Maya's heart in ways she hadn't known were possible. Derek was a decent father when he was around, which wasn't often. Eleanor continued to treat the girls with polite distance, as if they were temporary guests rather than her granddaughters. Victoria used them as Instagram props and nothing more. And Maya kept building, kept planning, kept preparing for the inevitable moment when everything would fall apart. That moment came sooner than she expected. It was a Tuesday evening in May. The twins were taking their afternoon nap. Maya was in the nursery with her laptop, checking her portfolio. Thomas had just sent the quarterly report. Current net worth, $48 million. $48 million. In 3 years, she turned $8 million into 48. If she could maintain this pace for just a few more years, she'd hit 100 million. More than enough to disappear. More than enough to protect her daughters for life. More than enough to never need the Carmichaels again. Maya allowed herself a moment of triumph. She'd done it. Against all odds, while being systematically dismantled by Derek's family, while raising infant twins alone, while pretending to be the helpless, poor girl they thought she was, she'd built an empire in the shadows. She was rich. Not Carmichael rich, not yet, but rich enough to leave. Maya pulled out her phone and texted her mother. "Mom, I think I'm finally ready. Give me 3 more months to let some investments vest, then we're coming home to Pennsylvania. The girls and me." Her mother's response was immediate. "Thank God, baby. I've been praying for this. We'll be ready for you." Maya smiled. 3 months, 90 days. Then she'd file for divorce from a position of strength. She'd offered Derek joint custody, because despite everything, he was their father and they deserved to know him. But she'd make it clear, she wasn't the helpless victim they'd created. She was a self-made multimillionaire who'd been playing a different game all along. The satisfaction of watching their faces when they learned the truth would be worth every sleepless night. Maya set her laptop aside and checked on the twins. Sophia and Emma were sleeping peacefully, their little chests rising and falling in perfect synchrony. "Your mama did good," she whispered, kissing each of their foreheads. "We're going to be okay. I promise." She should have known better than to make promises she couldn't keep. Because that night, Maya's phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. She almost deleted it without looking. Something made her open it instead. What she saw made her heart stop. It was a photo. Derek and Vanessa Blake, in bed together, naked. The timestamp said it had been taken less than 2 hours ago. Below the photo, a simple message. Thought you should know, a friend. Maya sat down hard on the nursery floor, her hands shaking so badly she almost dropped the phone. She checked Derek's location. They shared tracking for family safety, and saw he was at Vanessa's address, not at work, not at a business dinner, at Vanessa Blake's apartment. Maya scrolled through the location history, Tuesday nights and Thursday nights for the past 6 months. Always the same address. Always for 3 to 4 hours. Working late, business meetings, important client dinners. All lies, every single one of them. Her husband was having an affair, had been having an affair for 6 months, with the woman his mother had invited to their pregnancy announcement dinner. And knowing Eleanor, knowing how calculated that woman was, knowing how desperately she wanted Maya gone, this wasn't just Derek's betrayal, this was Eleanor's plan all along. Maya sat in the nursery with her sleeping daughters and felt something cold settle into her chest. Not heartbreak, that would come later. Not even anger, this was calculation. This was clarity. This was the moment when Maya Sullivan stopped being a woman who wanted to escape with dignity and became someone far more dangerous. She pulled out her laptop, sent Thomas a message. Change of plans. Don't liquidate anything. I want to go bigger, more aggressive. Everything we can possibly do. Maya, what happened? War. That's what happened. And I'm done playing defense. She didn't file for divorce in 3 months. She waited, watched, planned, and most importantly, she kept building her empire while Derek and his family thought they'd broken her. They had no idea what they'd unleashed. Have you ever been so betrayed that it changed who you fundamentally were? That's what happened to Maya that night. The woman who valued kindness and tried to see the best in people died in that nursery. What replaced her was harder, colder, more calculating, and infinitely more dangerous. Maya didn't confront Derek about the affair that night, or the next night, or the night after that. She watched him come home late on Tuesday and Thursday, smelling like Vanessa's perfume, lying about meetings and client dinners. She watched him play with the twins, change their diapers, read them bedtime stories, all while maintaining 2 separate lives. She said nothing, did nothing, just watched and documented everything. Because Maya had learned something crucial from the Carmichael family. Revenge is a dish best served cold, and timing is everything. Instead, she threw herself into her investments with renewed focus. Every lie Derek told, every night he spent with Vanessa, every time Eleanor made a cutting remark about Maya's parenting, it all became fuel. The portfolio grew. 48 million became 51, then 55, then 60, and then 6 months after Maya had discovered the affair, Eleanor called a family meeting. It was 10 o'clock on a Wednesday morning. Maya came downstairs in her pajamas, carrying both twins. She'd been up since 5 with Emma, who was teething and miserable. Sophia had finally fallen back asleep around 7. Maya hadn't showered, hadn't eaten breakfast, was running on 4 hours of sleep and pure exhaustion. She walked into the formal dining room and stopped cold. Eleanor and Robert sat at the head of the table. Victoria was there, looking bored and scrolling through her phone. Derek wouldn't meet Maya's eyes. And sitting in the chair next to Eleanor was a lawyer Maya had never seen before. Papers were spread across the mahogany table. Maya, Eleanor said, her voice pleasant in the way a knife is pleasant when it's very sharp. Thank you for joining us. Please sit. Maya sat, her stomach dropping. The twins fidgeted in her arms. The lawyer cleared his throat. Mrs. Carmichael, my name is James Henderson. I represent the Carmichael family in domestic matters. Your husband has retained me to file for legal separation. The words hit Maya like a physical blow, even though she'd been expecting this, even though she'd prepared for it. Hearing it said out loud in the family dining room where she'd endured so many terrible dinners was different. Furthermore, the lawyer continued, the Carmichael family is requesting that you vacate the premises within 48 hours. You're evicting me, Maya said. Her voice came out flat, empty, with 2 babies. It's better this way, Derek said quietly, still not looking at her. Cleaner, less confusing for the girls. Maya turned to him, really looked at him. The man she'd loved, the father of her children, was sitting there, letting his mother orchestrate this entire thing. Say something, Maya said. Tell them this is insane. Derek finally met her eyes. My parents are right. It's what's best for Sophia and Emma. Eleanor leaned forward. We're prepared to be quite generous, Maya. $50,000 and $2,000 per month in child support. In exchange, you'll sign over primary custody to Derek. We'll work out supervised visitation for Warsaw, perhaps weekends, though we think that might be too much initially. You want my daughters. Maya's voice was shaking now. You're trying to take my children. Robert spoke for the first time. We can provide stability. You're a single mother with no job, no income, no home of your own. What judge will choose you over a family with resources? Victoria finally looked up from her phone. Maya, be realistic. You can barely afford your own life. What are you going to do? Move back to Pennsylvania and work double shifts at a hospital? The girls deserve better than that. Maya looked at each of them. Eleanor with her cold satisfaction, Robert with his dismissive certainty, Victoria with her casual cruelty, and Derek the coward who couldn't even defend his own children from this. If you don't sign, the lawyer added, we'll be forced to take this to court. And I assure you the Carmichael family has the resources to ensure a favorable outcome. Maya stood up slowly, picked up both twins, one in each arm, looked at Eleanor. You're right about one thing, Maya said. I never belonged here, because belonging here means being cruel and shallow and empty, and I'll never be that. She walked toward the door. If you don't sign those papers, we'll destroy you in court, Robert called after her. Maya turned back. Then I'll see you in court. Eleanor stood, her face flushed with rage. You have nothing. You are nothing. Without this family, you'll be working 3 jobs just to keep the lights on. Maya didn't respond. She walked out with her daughters and never looked back. She packed one suitcase, threw in whatever clothes she could grab, the twins' favorite stuffed animals, a few bottles, some diapers, her laptop. 20 minutes later, she was standing outside the gates in the rain, being told by security that she wasn't on the approved list anymore. That's where this story started. But now you know what Eleanor didn't, what none of them knew. The woman they just evicted wasn't nothing. She was $60 million worth of invisible, and she was about to become their worst nightmare. Maya drove to the nearest motel with vacancies, the Budget Inn. $65 a night. It smelled like cigarettes and desperation. The carpet was stained, the bathroom had mold in the corners, but it had a roof and a lock on the door, and it was hers. She laid the twins on the bed, made sure they were safe, and then sat down on the floor and tried to breathe. Her phone buzzed. Text from Victoria. Just want you to know, Sophia asked for Daddy today. She didn't ask for you. Kids know who really loves them. Followed by a smiley face emoji. Maya deleted it. Then her phone rang. Thomas Wright. Maya, I just saw your location. Where are you? A motel. They kicked me out. Thomas, they're trying to take my daughters. They can't. They froze my accounts. Sullivan Ventures, my old 401k, everything. They're claiming it's all marital assets. She heard Thomas typing furiously. Son of a bitch. There's a lien from Robert Carmichael's law firm. Maya, they found your LLC. Can they do that? They did it. But they don't know about the offshore trusts. The $60 million is safe. They can't touch it. Maya felt a hysterical laugh building in her throat. I can't touch it either. If I move that money now, during a custody fight, it looks like I'm hiding assets. The judge will... I know, Thomas said quietly. Maya, I'm sorry, but we have to play this smart. You pretend to be broke. Let them think they won. And we wait for the right moment to strike. Thomas, I have $3,000 in cash. That's it. How long do I pretend? As long as it takes to win. This is war now, and in war, sometimes retreat is the smartest strategy. Maya looked at her daughters sleeping on the motel bed, at the stained walls and broken TV and everything that was supposed to be temporary but felt permanent. She had $60 million and couldn't touch a penny of it. She was rich and broke at the same time, powerful and helpless. Okay, she said, I'll play their game. But Thomas? Yes? When the moment comes to strike back, I want to destroy them so completely they never recover. Can you help me do that? There was a pause. Then Thomas said, "Yes, your father would be proud of you, Maya. Not for the revenge, but for the survival, for the fight." "I'm not my father," Maya said quietly. "He was a better person than I'm becoming." "No, you're stronger. And right now, strong is what your daughters need." Maya hung up, fed the twins, changed their diapers, put them to bed in the motel crib that looked like it violated every safety regulation ever written. Then she opened her laptop and started planning. The Carmichaels thought they'd won. They thought they'd broken her. They had no idea that the game had only just begun. And when it was over, they wouldn't just lose. They'd lose everything. Starting with their company, their reputation, and their unshakable certainty that money could solve any problem. Because sometimes the person you're fighting has more money than you do. They've just been smart enough to hide it until the exact right moment. That moment was coming, and Maya Sullivan was going to make sure every second of suffering she'd endured was repaid with interest. The custody papers arrived 3 days after the eviction. A process server found Maya at the motel, knocked on the door while she was trying to get the twins down for a nap. "Maya Sullivan?" "Yes." "You've been served." He handed her a thick manila envelope and left. Maya opened it with shaking hands. The document inside was titled, "Carmichael v. Sullivan, Petition for Full Custody." Well, she read the allegations with growing horror. Unstable living conditions, no verifiable income or employment, history of erratic and emotionally unstable behavior, abandonment of marital home without reasonable cause, suspected substance abuse. That last one made her laugh, a bitter sound that woke Emma, who started crying. Suspected substance abuse. Complete fabrication. But how could she prove a negative? How could she prove she wasn't an addict when she had no money for lawyers, no resources to fight back? The relief requested made her feel sick. Full legal and physical custody to Derek Carmichael. Supervised visitation for Maya, 4 hours per month. Mandatory psychological evaluation for Maya. Drug testing, 4 hours per month. That's all they wanted to give her, 4 hours with her own children. Maya called the one lawyer she could afford, a strip mall attorney who advertised on bus benches. She had to use the last of her cash just to pay for the consultation. The lawyer, a tired-looking man in his 50s, read the papers and shook his head. "Mrs. Carmichael, I'll be honest. You're fighting a family with unlimited resources and a stellar reputation. Your best option is to negotiate for shared custody and move on. Full custody battles against wealthy families like this, you'll spend $100,000 and probably lose." "They're trying to take my children," Maya said, "and they might succeed. You need $15,000 just for my retainer. Against their legal team, you're looking at $50,000 minimum. Can you afford that?" Maya thought about the $60 million she couldn't touch. "No. Then I'd suggest finding a pro bono clinic or representing yourself." "I'm sorry." She left his office and sat in her car in the parking lot, staring at the steering wheel. How had it come to this? How had she gone from planning her triumphant exit to sitting in a 10-year-old Honda, crying while her daughters napped in the backseat? Her phone buzzed. Instagram notification, Victoria had posted again. The photo showed Derek with Sophia and Mom at a park. He was smiling, pushing them on a swing. The caption read, "Best daddy ever, so grateful for his strength during difficult times. Hashtag single dad life, #family. First, pray for Sophia and Emma." The comments were brutal. "Where's the mother? I heard she abandoned them." Gold digger finally showed her true colors. "Those poor babies deserve better." Maya tried to comment, to defend herself. Victoria had blocked her. She tried calling Derek. Number blocked. She tried texting Eleanor. Message couldn't be delivered. They'd cut her off completely. And now they were controlling the narrative, making her look like the villain while they played the victims. A week later, the court appointed a custody evaluator, Dr. Patricia Morgan, a psychologist who specialized in family assessments. What Maya didn't know, what she couldn't know, was that Dr. Morgan had received a $50,000 consulting fee from Robert Carmichael's law firm 3 days before her appointment. Dr. Morgan visited the Carmichael mansion first, clean, spacious, immaculate. A nanny on staff. A nursery that looked like something from a magazine. Derek, calm and concerned, explained how worried he was about Maya's mental state. "I just want what's best for my daughters," he said, hitting all the right notes. "Maya is struggling. I think she needs help, not judgment." De Morgan nodded and took notes. Then she visited Maya at the motel. The room was as clean as Maya could make it, but there was only so much that could be done. The stained carpet, the broken air conditioner, the overwhelming smell of mildew, the fact that two toddlers were living in a space barely big enough for one adult. Dr. Morgan photographed everything, asked Maya about her daily routine, her plans, her employment prospects. Maya answered honestly, exhausted and defeated. "I'm looking for work," Maya said. "But it's hard when I don't have an address, when I don't have references, when every nursing supervisor I contact has seen Victoria's Instagram posts painting me as an unstable mother who abandoned her kids." Dr. Morgan wrote something down. "Are you currently employed?" "No." "And financially?" Maya hesitated. This was it, the moment she could reveal the truth. But Thomas's words echoed in her head. "If you move that money now, it looks like you're hiding assets." "I'm figuring it out," Maya said. Dr. Morgan's expression said everything. Lying, delusional, unstable. 2 weeks later, the evaluation report came back. Maya's public defender, court-appointed, overworked, barely competent, called to give her the news. "It's not good, Maya." The findings were devastating. Mother residing in substandard housing, unsuitable for minor children. No employment or financial stability demonstrated. Mother appeared depressed, anxious, emotionally overwhelmed during evaluation. Father provides stable, enriched environment with comprehensive family support. Recommendation: primary custody to father, supervised visitation for mother 4 hours per week, pending mother's completion of parenting classes and establishment of stable housing. Maya listened to her lawyer read the report and felt something break inside her. Something fundamental. The last piece of hope that truth and justice mattered. That being a good mother was enough. "The hearing is in 3 weeks, her lawyer said. "Maya, I think you should seriously consider settling. Take what visitation you can get," and she hung up on him. That night, Maya did something she'd never done before. She packed a bag, grabbed the twins into their car seats, and drove. She didn't have a destination, just drove away from the motel, away from the city, away from everything. She ended up on Interstate 80 at 2 in the morning, pulling over at a rest stop because she was crying too hard to see the road. The twins slept peacefully in the back seat, oblivious to their mother's breakdown. Maya Googled, "Can I move out of state with my children during custody battle?" The answer appeared immediately. No, relocating children across state lines during active custody proceedings can be considered parental kidnapping and may result in immediate loss of custody. So she couldn't stay, couldn't run, couldn't win. "I'm sorry," she whispered to her sleeping daughters. "I'm so sorry. Mama tried. Mama tried so hard." Her phone rang. "Mom." Maya answered, unable to speak through her tears. "Baby, where are you?" her mother asked. "I've been calling for 2 days." "I don't know. Somewhere on I-80. I couldn't stay in that room anymore, Mama. I just couldn't." "Are the girls with you?" "Yes." "Are they safe?" "Yes." "Then listen to me. You drive to the nearest safe place. A rest stop, a diner, anywhere with lights and people. You sit down and you breathe. Because right now, you're scaring me." "They're going to take my babies," Maya sobbed. "I can't stop them. I have all this money and I can't use it. I'm rich and I'm powerless and I don't know what to do." "Then use your father's gift the way he meant it. Not to run, not to hide, to fight. Call someone who can help you. Do something, anything, except giving up." Maya sat in the car, tears streaming down her face, and thought about her father, about the lesson he had tried to teach her, about strength and character and fighting even when you know you might lose. "There's someone," she said quietly, "from my old hospital. She told me once that if I ever needed anything—" "Then you call her," her mother interrupted. "Right now, tonight." Maya looked at her phone contacts, scrolled to a name she hadn't called in 2 years, Linda Mitchell, her old nursing supervisor, the woman who'd been more of a mother to her at the hospital than Eleanor had ever been. At 3 in the morning, Maya hit call. Linda answered on the third ring, her voice groggy. This better be an emergency. Linda, it's Maya Sullivan. I'm so sorry to call this late. I don't know what else to do. And Maya told her everything. The Carmichaels, the eviction, the custody battle, the motel, the evaluation, all of it. When she finished, there was silence on the other end of the line. Then Linda said, that son of a bitch, that entire family of son of a bitches. I don't know what to do, Maya said. They're going to take my daughters and like hell they are. Listen to me. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to drive to my address. I have an apartment over my garage. It's yours, free, for as long as you need it. You and those babies are going to have a roof and meals and safety. Write down this address. Maya grabbed a napkin from the glove box and a pen. Wrote down the address with shaking hands. Linda, I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm telling. And tomorrow morning, you're meeting with Jenna Russo. She's a family lawyer, the best in the state. Specializes in taking down wealthy, abusive families. She owes me a favor. I can't afford a lawyer like that, Maya said. Did I ask if you could afford her? She takes cases pro bono for women in exactly your situation. Now get your ass to my house and stop arguing. Maya felt something shift. Hope, maybe. Or just the absence of complete despair. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you so much. Thank me by fighting, Maya, by refusing to let these people break you. Your father left you options. Now use them. Maya drove to Linda's house. The apartment over the garage was small but clean, safe, warm. The twins didn't wake up when she carried them inside. For the first time in weeks, Maya slept. Really slept. Because sometimes the strongest thing you can do is accept help when you need it. And sometimes survival is just about making it to tomorrow. Then the next day, then the one after that. Until suddenly, impossibly, you realize you've made it through. And you're still standing. And the fight isn't over yet. 3 days later, Maya met Jenna Russo. Jenna was nothing like Maya expected. 42 years old, Italian-American, with a Brooklyn accent that got thicker when she was angry. She showed up at Linda's garage apartment wearing a power suit and carrying a briefcase that looked like it could double as a weapon. She took one look at Maya, exhausted, hopeless, barely holding it together, then at the twins playing on the floor, then back at Maya. Linda tells me the Carmichael family thinks they can steal your kids because they're rich and you're not. Maya nodded. And you've been living in a motel because they kicked you out with newborns. 6-week-old twins, Maya corrected. Jenna's eyes narrowed. Oh, this just keeps getting better. Let me guess. They froze your accounts, trashed you on social media, bought off a custody evaluator? How did you? Because it's the rich family playbook. I've seen it 100 times. They think money equals power. And you know what? Usually they're right. Jenna sat down, leaning forward. But not this time, because they just messed with the wrong woman and hired the wrong lawyer. Now tell me everything, every detail, every document, every dirty secret. Maya talked for 2 hours about Derek's affair, about Eleanor's orchestration, about the eviction and the false allegations and the rigged evaluation. When she finished, Jenna was quiet for a long moment. Okay, she finally said. Here's the truth. Normally a case like this, you'd lose. Wealthy family, good lawyers, bought evaluator, social media campaign painting you as unstable. 9 times out of 10, you'd lose your kids. Maya felt her heart sink. But this is the 10th time, Jenna continued, because you have something they don't expect. What they don't know about you? Maya hesitated. This was it, the moment to reveal everything or keep hiding. I have money, she said quietly, a lot of money, from my father in offshore trusts. They have no idea. How much? $60 million. Jenna whistled low. Oh, honey, they have no idea what's about to hit them. Over the next 6 weeks, Jenna Russo became Maya's general in a war that was about to get very ugly. She filed emergency motions, subpoenaed phone records, hired investigators, built a case that would not just defend Maya but destroy the Carmichaels. Here's the strategy, Jenna explained during one of their many planning sessions. We don't reveal the money yet. First, we destroy their credibility, expose the affair, prove Eleanor knew and encouraged it, show the bought evaluator, make them look like the villains they are. And then when they think they've won, when they're celebrating their victory, that's when we drop the nuclear bomb. Maya learned that Jenna had her own history with powerful families. At 25, she'd gone through a custody battle with her wealthy ex-husband. She'd almost lost her daughter. But one lawyer had fought for free, had refused to let money win. Jenna had won custody, and she'd promised herself that when she became a lawyer, she'd be that person for someone else. I don't do this for money, Jenna said. I do this because nobody should lose their kids just for being poor, even when they're not actually poor. She grinned, which makes this case so much more fun. They worked day and night, Maya studying legal documents while the twins napped, Jenna filing motions and interviewing witnesses, Linda babysitting so Maya could focus. Thomas Wright joined the team remotely, managing Maya's portfolio and preparing the financial disclosures that would eventually reveal her net worth. Your investments are doing well, Thomas reported during a video call. That pharmaceutical company just IPO'd. You're at 68 million now. Maya barely registered the number. She didn't care about money anymore. She only cared about her daughters. The preliminary hearing arrived 6 weeks after the eviction. Maya walked into the courtroom wearing a professional outfit that Jenna had bought for her. Derek sat with his lawyer, Harold Winters, a man with a reputation for crushing opponents. Eleanor and Robert sat in the gallery, looking confident. They had no idea what was coming. Judge Margaret Torres entered, 58 years old, no nonsense, a divorced single mother herself. Maya learned later that Jenna had specifically requested this judge. Sometimes strategy was about knowing who held the power. Harold Winters stood first. Your Honor, the facts are simple. Mr. Carmichael provides a stable, wealthy, supportive environment. Mrs. Sullivan lives in a borrowed apartment and has no employment. The children's best interests are clear. Your Honor, may I present evidence? Jenna stood, calm but deadly. Proceed, Ms. Russo. What followed was a systematic destruction of Derek's credibility. Exhibit A, Jenna said, projecting text messages on the courtroom screen. Messages between Derek Carmichael and Vanessa Blake, spanning 18 months, including these from 3 days before he evicted his wife. The text appeared. Derek to Vanessa, can't wait to be free of this situation. Mom's lawyer is handling everything. By Friday, she'll be gone and we can finally be together. Vanessa to Derek, what about the babies? Derek, Mom says we'll get custody. Maya can have supervised visits. I'm done playing house with someone who doesn't understand our world. The courtroom erupted. Derek's face went white. Eleanor's mouth became a thin line. Exhibit B, Jenna continued, bank records showing Mr. Carmichael transferred $87,000 from joint marital accounts to Vanessa Blake over 18 months. Hotel stays, jewelry, vacations. Harold Winters tried to object. Judge Torres overruled him. Exhibit C email from Eleanor Carmichael to Dr. Patricia Morgan. The email appeared on screen. Dr. Morgan, as discussed, the $50,000 consulting fee has been transferred. We trust your evaluation will reflect the children's need for stability with their father's family. Let us know if you require additional context. The courtroom exploded. Judge Torres banged her gavel. Ms. Russo, you're alleging the evaluator was paid off? I'm not alleging, Your Honor. I'm proving it. Wire transfer records included. Judge Torres looked at Derek, at his lawyers, at Eleanor and Robert in the gallery. Her expression was ice cold. Dr. Morgan's evaluation is void. I'm ordering an investigation into her license. Mr. Winters, your client has committed fraud, adultery, and financial abuse. His family has conspired to corrupt this court's process. I'm granting temporary full custody to Mrs. Sullivan, effective immediately. Your Honor, Harold started, I'm not finished. Mr. Carmichael will have supervised visitation, 2 hours per week, and he will pay Mrs. Sullivan's legal fees. Every single penny. We're adjourned. The gavel came down. Outside the courthouse, Maya stood on the steps with Jenna and Linda, the twins in a stroller. Reporters were swarming, camera phones everywhere. Maya, how do you respond to allegations you're unstable? Maya stopped, turned, looked directly at the cameras. I'm not unstable. I'm a mother who was kicked out of her home with 6-week-old babies by people who thought money could solve any problem. Today they learned they were wrong. What will you do now? I'm going to raise my daughters, and I'm going to make sure every woman facing what I faced knows there's hope. Jenna pulled her toward the car. That was perfect. But save some energy. The real battle's in 8 weeks. They're not done yet. Maya looked back at the courthouse. Through the windows, she could see the Carmichael family. Derek looked destroyed. Eleanor looked furious. Robert looked like someone had just told him gravity no longer existed. They thought they'd won. They'd thought money and power and corruption would be enough. They were about to learn that the woman they dismissed as nothing was actually worth more than their entire family combined. And she was just getting started. Because winning a preliminary hearing was one thing. Completely destroying them in the final trial? That was going to be so much sweeter. The 8 weeks between the preliminary hearing and the full custody trial should have been a time of recovery for Maya. She had her daughters back. She had temporary custody. She'd exposed Derek's affair and Eleanor's corruption for the world to see. But the Carmichaels weren't done fighting. Not even close. 1 week after the preliminary hearing, Maya received an anonymous email. No subject line, no message. Just an attachment. Medical records for Sophia. Maya opened the file with growing horror. It showed a hospital visit she had never authorized, dated during one of Derek's supervised visitations. The diagnosis made her stomach turn. Suspected neglect, failure to thrive. Mother reported as emotionally unavailable and erratic. The report was signed by Dr. Marcus Hathaway, a name Maya had never heard before. She called Jenna immediately. It's fake, Maya said, her voice shaking. Sophia doesn't have failure to thrive. She's perfect, healthy. This is a setup, Jenna finished. Dr. Hathaway is a private physician, Carmichael family friend. Maya, they created a false medical record to use against you. Can they do that? With enough money, they can do anything. And if Child Protective Services gets this, the doorbell rang. Maya opened it to find 2 CPS investigators on Linda's porch. Ma'am, we received a report of medical neglect. We need to inspect the home and interview you. What followed was 90 minutes of hell. The investigators photographed everything, asked invasive questions, examined Sophia and Emma, who were clearly healthy and well cared for, but that didn't seem to matter. They wanted to know about Maya's mental health, her financial situation, her plans. We'll file our report within 7 days, the lead investigator said as they left. The children can remain with you until then. Maya collapsed against the door after they left. She called Thomas Wright, desperate. It's time, she said. We can't wait anymore. Let's move the money. I'll explain it to the judge. Maya, no. Thomas's voice was firm. If you suddenly access millions during a CPS investigation, you'll look guilty, like you're preparing to flee. We wait. For what? For them to take my children because I'm pretending to be broke? For the right moment. Trust me. 6 days later, the CPS report came back. The findings were designed to look neutral, but still damaging. Housing adequate, but minimal. Mother appears stressed. Medical concerns require further investigation. Children appear healthy at present, but continued monitoring recommended. Mother should attend parenting classes and secure more stable housing. It wasn't enough to remove the twins, but it gave the Carmichaels exactly the ammunition they needed for the final trial. The night before the full custody hearing, Maya couldn't sleep. She lay in the small bedroom Linda had given her, listening to the twins breathe in their cribs, and thought about everything that had led to this moment. 4 years ago, she'd been a woman who believed in love and goodness and the fundamental decency of people. She'd hidden her wealth because she wanted to be loved for who she was, not what she had. Now she understood that sometimes kindness is mistaken for weakness, that sometimes you have to fight fire with fire, that sometimes the only way to protect what matters is to become someone you never wanted to be. Tomorrow, she'd walk into that courtroom and reveal everything. The $68 million. The empire she'd built in secret. The fact that she'd been 5 times wealthier than the Carmichael family this entire time. They'd be humiliated, destroyed, their sense of superiority shattered. And Maya didn't feel bad about it. Not anymore, because they'd tried to take her children. They'd tried to break her. They'd underestimated her at every turn. Tomorrow they'd learn the price of that mistake. The courtroom was packed. The media had gotten wind that something big was happening. Derek and his family sat on one side, looking confident despite the preliminary hearing's outcome. They thought they had one last card to play. The CPS report, the medical concerns, Maya's apparent poverty. Maya sat on the other side with Jenna. She wore a designer suit that Thomas had sent, her first expensive clothing purchase in 4 years. Her hair was done, her makeup perfect. She looked like exactly what she was, a woman with power. Judge Torres entered. We're here for the final custody determination in Carmichael versus Sullivan. Mr. Winters, you may present your case. Harold Winters stood. He was good at his job. He painted a picture of Maya as struggling, overwhelmed, unable to provide for her children. He referenced the CPS report, the motel, the lack of employment, the apparent instability. Your Honor, my client loves his daughters. He can provide them with the best schools, healthcare opportunities. Mrs. Sullivan, despite her efforts, simply cannot compete with the resources and stability the Carmichael family offers. Then it was time for cross-examination. Jenna called Robert Carmichael to the stand. Mr. Carmichael, you've testified that your son can provide financial stability. What's your personal net worth? Approximately $40 million, Robert said confidently. And your annual income? $2.8 million. Impressive, and you believe that's sufficient to care for 2 children? More than sufficient. It's about values, Ms. Russo. Work ethic, legacy. Jenna smiled. Legacy, Your Honor, I'd like to submit Exhibit M. She handed documents to the judge and opposing counsel. Judge Torres began reading, her eyebrows rising steadily higher. These are financial disclosures for Maya Sullivan, née Warner, Jenna said. Asset statements, trust fund documentation, and investment portfolios managed by Wright Capital Management. Ms. Russo, Judge Torres said slowly, these numbers seem extraordinary. They're accurate, Your Honor, independently verified. Maya's father, David Sullivan, founded HealthBridge Software in 1999, sold to Microsoft in 2001 for $40 million. Upon his death in 2010, Maya inherited $8 million in a trust fund. The courtroom went silent. Derek leaned forward, confused. Eleanor's face was frozen. Over the past 4 years, Jenna continued, Maya has grown that inheritance through strategic investments in healthcare technology, biotech ventures, and pharmaceutical companies. Her nursing background gave her unique insights into which medical innovations would succeed. A PowerPoint presentation appeared on the courtroom screens, showing Maya's investment history year by year. Year 1, $8 million to $15.6 million. Year 2, $15.6 million to $48 million. Year 3, $48 million to $68 million. Current net worth as of this morning. Jenna paused for dramatic effect. $68 million. The courtroom exploded. Derek stood up, his face white. That's impossible. Eleanor whispered something to Robert that made him grip the armrest of his chair. Judge Torres banged her gavel. Order! Jenna turned to Robert, still on the stand. So let me ask you again, Mr. Carmichael. You have $40 million. Maya has $68 million. Who exactly cannot provide financial stability? Robert's face was red. She never told us. She hid it. She protected it from people who would have exploited her, people who kicked her out of their home with 6-week-old babies because they thought she was worthless. Jenna pulled out another document. But here's my favorite part. 6 months ago, Carmichael Industries refinanced its debt, $22 million in loans from various creditors. What you don't know is that those loans were purchased by Sullivan Ventures, Maya's company. She showed the corporate documents. Maya owns your debt. She could call it tomorrow and force you into bankruptcy. But you know what she did instead? Silence. Nothing. Because unlike you, she doesn't use power to destroy families. She uses it to protect her own. When Maya took the stand, Jenna asked her the question everyone needed to hear. Maya, why didn't you tell Derek about the money? Maya looked at Derek, really looked at him. Because I wanted to know if he loved me. Just me. Not my father's legacy, not my portfolio. Me. And did he? For a while, I thought so. But when his family told him to choose between their approval and his wife, he chose them. Every single time. What do you want, Maya? I want my daughters. I want them to grow up knowing their worth isn't determined by money or social status or anyone else's opinion. I want them to learn that kindness matters more than wealth. And I want them to never feel what I felt in that house. Invisible, small, worthless. Maya's voice broke slightly. I don't want revenge. I just want to be their mother. The courtroom was silent. Judge Torres looked at Derek, at his parents, at the lawyers, then at Maya. I've seen many cases in my career, but I have never seen a family act with such calculated cruelty as the Carmichaels. She turned to Derek. Mr. Carmichael, you evicted your wife and 6-week-old twins because your mother told you to. You had an affair. You stole from marital funds. You tried to corrupt a custody evaluation. And through all of it, you never once asked yourself if the woman you married might have value beyond what you could see. She looked at Maya. Mrs. Sullivan, you are granted full legal and physical custody of Sophia and Emma. Mr. Carmichael will have supervised visitation, 4 hours per week, pending completion of family therapy. Harold tried to object. Judge Torres cut him off. Furthermore, Mr. Carmichael will pay all of Mrs. Sullivan's legal fees. And I'm issuing a restraining order against Eleanor Carmichael. She is not to contact Mrs. Sullivan or the children under any circumstances. Eleanor stood, outraged. You can't. Mrs. Carmichael, sit down or I'll hold you in contempt. In my courtroom, cruelty doesn't win. We're adjourned. The gavel came down. Outside, media swarmed. Maya stopped on the courthouse steps. How do you respond to allegations you hid your wealth? A reporter called out. I didn't hide it, Maya said. I protected it from people who measured my worth by their bank account instead of my character. What will you do now? I'm going to raise my daughters. And I'm going to make sure every woman facing what I faced knows there's hope. Money helps. But courage? That's free. She walked away from the courthouse with her daughters, with Jenna and Linda beside her. Behind her, the Carmichael family stood frozen in the wreckage of their arrogance. They'd called her nothing. They'd thrown her away. And in doing so, they'd freed her to become everything they could never be. Not rich, not powerful, not vindictive, just unbreakable. 5 years later, the glass building caught the morning sun, reflecting it across the city in shards of light that felt almost symbolic. Maya stood at the window of her corner office on the 40th floor, watching the traffic below, and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not happiness exactly, not yet, but peace. Behind her, Thomas Wright finished presenting the quarterly report to the board. Sullivan Ventures' portfolio is currently valued at $340 million. Our investment in Neuralink Diagnostics alone has yielded a 340% return. More importantly, Maya added, turning from the window, their early detection technology has saved approximately 12,000 lives. That's what we do here. We don't just make money, we make impact. The board members nodded, impressed. 5 years ago, Maya had been living in a motel with 2 babies, fighting for survival. Now she ran one of the most successful healthcare venture capital funds in the country. The transformation hadn't been easy, or clean, or without cost. After the trial, Maya had taken 6 months to just be a mother, to heal, to remember who she'd been before the Carmichaels had tried to break her. Then she'd started Sullivan Ventures officially, moving it from a secret operation to a real company with an office and staff and purpose. She'd invested in 52 healthcare companies, created 14,000 jobs, changed the medical landscape in ways that had nothing to do with revenge and everything to do with the nurse she'd once been, the woman who understood suffering and wanted to end it. And yes, she'd also donated $10 million to create the Single Mothers Legal Defense Fund, an organization that provided free legal help to women fighting custody battles against wealthy opponents, because she'd been one good lawyer away from losing everything that mattered, and she refused to let that happen to anyone else. Ms. Sullivan? Her assistant poked her head into the office. The Forbes reporter is here for your interview. Maya nodded. Send them in. The interview was for a piece on silent billionaires, investors who'd built empires quietly. The reporter was young, eager, impressed by the office, and the view and everything Maya had accomplished. Your story went viral, the reporter said. The custody battle, the revelation of your wealth. What do you want people to understand about what happened? Maya thought about that, about all the ways she could spin the narrative. That you don't need $200 million to stand up for yourself, she finally said. I had resources, yes, but courage? That's free, and sometimes that's all you really need. Home was a brownstone in a quiet neighborhood, nothing like the Carmichael Mansion. Smaller, warmer, filled with the twins' artwork and photos and all the comfortable chaos that comes with raising children who are loved. Sophia and Emma burst through the door when Maya arrived from work, 7 years old now, all energy and excitement. Mom, I got an A on my science project. And I scored 2 goals in soccer. Maya hugged them both, feeling her heart expand in that way it only did with them. They were brilliant, confident, kind girls who knew their worth, who understood that family wasn't about money or mansions or maintaining appearances. It was about showing up, about love, about choosing each other, always. That night, after dinner and homework and bedtime stories, Emma asked the question Maya had been expecting. Mom, why don't we talk to Dad's family? Victoria sent me a friend request on Instagram. Maya sat on the bed between her daughters, choosing her words carefully. Because some people aren't good for a baby, not because they're bad people, but because they make us feel small, and you deserve to feel big. Do you hate them? Sophia asked. No, I don't think about them enough to hate them. I think about you two, and that's all that matters. The charity event was held in a hotel ballroom, black tie, the kind of event Maya used to feel out of place at. Now she stood on stage presenting a $10 million check to the Single Mothers Legal Defense Fund, and she felt exactly where she belonged. 5 years ago, she told the crowd, I was living in a motel with my babies, fighting a family with infinite resources. If it weren't for one lawyer who believed in me, I would have lost everything. So today I'm making sure other women don't have to fight alone. The applause was genuine. In the audience, Maya saw Jenna Russo beaming with pride, Linda Mitchell wiping tears, Thomas Wright nodding approval. These were her people now, not blood family, chosen family, the people who'd shown up when everything fell apart. The encounter with Derek was unexpected. Maya was at a coffee shop near her office when someone approached her table. Maya. She looked up. Derek looked older, worn down by the years. But there was something different in his eyes, clarity, maybe, or just exhaustion. I heard you'd be here, he said. I know this is weird, but can I sit? Just for a minute. Maya gestured to the empty chair. 1 minute. He sat. I've been in therapy, 3 years now, working on myself, trying to understand everything I did wrong. Good for you. I owe you an apology, a real one. I let my family destroy us. I was weak, cowardly, and I'm sorry. Maya studied him. She could see he meant it, could see the work he'd put into becoming someone better. I appreciate that, but Derek, apologies don't erase what happened. I know, but maybe they're a start. For the girls, they ask about me. I want to be a real father to them. Then show up, do the therapy, prove it through actions, because they deserve better than who you were. Derek nodded. I'm trying, I swear. There was an awkward pause. My mother, Derek said. She's in a retirement community now, lost everything when the company went under. She asks about the girls sometimes. That's not my decision, Maya said. When Sophia and Emma are old enough to choose for themselves, I'll let them. But I won't force forgiveness. Fair. Another pause. I saw your Forbes article. 340 million. You were rich the whole time. I was, but you never asked. You just assumed I was nothing because your mother told you I was. Biggest mistake of my life. Maya stood to leave. No, Derek, your biggest mistake was believing her. Marrying me was actually the smartest thing you ever did. You just didn't realize it until you had already thrown it away. She left him sitting there with his coffee and his regrets. That night, putting the twins to bed, Sophia asked the question Maya had been dreading. Mom, when we grow up, will we be rich like you? Maya sat between them, thinking carefully. That depends on what you think rich means. If it means money, maybe. If it means knowing your worth no matter what anyone says, Then yes, absolutely. Tell us the story again, Emma said, about how you and Daddy met. You've heard it 100 times. But we like it, especially the ending, where you win. Maya smiled sadly. I didn't win, babies. I survived. There's a difference. What's the difference? And Maya thought about that question. About all the ways survival differed from victory. About the kisses and the scars and the person she'd had to become. Winning means someone else loses, she finally said. Surviving means you kept going when everything told you to stop. And then you built something beautiful from the pieces. Are we the beautiful thing? Emma asked. Maya hugged them both tight. You're everything. After they fell asleep, Maya stood at her bedroom window, looking out at the city lights. She thought about the woman who'd stood outside the Carmichael gates in the rain, about how far she'd come, about what she'd lost and what she'd gained. She'd become someone her younger self wouldn't recognize. Harder, more calculating, less willing to see the best in people. The Carmichaels had taken her innocence, her faith in love, her belief that kindness mattered most. But they'd also revealed her strength, her capability, her refusal to break even when breaking would have been easier. So had she won? Had destroying them been worth it? Maya looked at the photos on her dresser, Sophia and Emma laughing, her mother visiting from Pennsylvania, Jenna and Linda at a charity event, Thomas at the office. This was her answer. Not revenge, not vindication, just a life built on her own terms. Children who knew their worth, work that mattered, people who showed up. The Carmichaels had tried to make her nothing. Instead, they'd freed her to become everything they could never be. Not because she had money, but because she'd learned that courage matters more than wealth, that character outlasts cruelty, that the people who underestimate you are giving you the greatest gift of all, the element of surprise. And sometimes, just sometimes, the underdog doesn't just survive. They thrive. They build empires. They change the world in ways that have nothing to do with revenge and everything to do with refusing to let someone else's cruelty define your future. That was Maya's real victory, not the $340 million, not the destroyed reputation of the family that had tried to break her. Her victory was simpler than that. She was happy, her daughters were loved, and she slept peacefully every night, knowing she'd kept every promise that mattered. Starting with the one she'd made in the rain outside the Carmichael gates. I will protect you, no matter what she'd kept that promise. And in keeping it, she'd saved herself too. Maya stood at her father's grave on a crisp autumn morning, 5 years and 2 months after the trial that changed everything. She brought fresh flowers, sunflowers his favorite, and stood quietly for a moment before speaking. Hi, Dad. I brought the girls last week, but I wanted to come alone today, to tell you something. The wind rustled through the trees. Maya pulled her coat tighter. I used your gift, the money, the lessons, all of it. And I need you to know I tried to do it your way, tried to be kind and good and believe the best in people. But sometimes, Dad, sometimes kindness isn't enough. Sometimes you have to fight. She touched the headstone. The inscription read, David Sullivan, 1955-2010. He taught her that money doesn't change people. It reveals them. You were right about that, Maya said softly. The money revealed exactly who the Carmichaels were. And it revealed who I could become when I stopped trying to be what others expected. The revelation of Maya's wealth had done more than just win her custody. It had fundamentally altered the power dynamics of every relationship she'd had. Derek, to his credit, had actually followed through on therapy. He now had weekend custody of Sophia and Emma. He'd apologized not just once, but repeatedly in therapy sessions with Maya present, acknowledging every failure and every cowardice. He'd never be the partner he should have been, but he was becoming a decent father, slowly, painfully. The twins seemed okay with the arrangement. They loved their dad, but had no illusions about him. Daddy tries hard now, Sophia had explained once. He says he's learning to be brave. Eleanor Carmichael had never apologized. Never would. She'd lost everything, her social standing, her power, her certainty. She lived in an assisted living facility that Maya secretly paid for through an anonymous trust. Because despite everything, Maya couldn't let an old woman suffer completely. But Eleanor didn't know about Maya's charity, and she'd never met her granddaughters. Some bridges, once burned, stay burned. Victoria had disappeared from social media entirely. Last Maya heard, she was working as a marketing consultant. Her 80,000 Instagram followers a distant memory. Robert Carmichael had died of a stroke 18 months after the trial. Derek said he'd never recovered from the humiliation. Maya felt nothing when she heard. Not satisfaction, not guilt, just nothing. The final scene of Maya's story took place at a conference center in Manhattan. She was the keynote speaker at the Women in Venture Capital Summit, standing before 300 women who were trying to break into one of the most male-dominated industries in the world. They're going to underestimate you, Maya told the audience. Some of you because you're women, some because you're young, some because you don't have the right pedigree or background or connections. And you know what? That's their mistake, not yours. She paused, looking out at the faces looking back at her. I spent 3 years being underestimated by people who thought they knew my worth, based on my job, my background, my bank account. They never bothered to ask who I actually was. They just assumed, and their assumption became my advantage. Maya clicked to the next slide, a graph showing Sullivan Ventures' growth over 5 years. When someone tells you who you are, you have two choices. You can believe them, or you can prove them wrong. I chose option 2, and you know what I learned? The people who underestimate you are giving you the greatest gift. They're lowering their guard. They're getting comfortable. They're assuming you're not a threat. She smiled, and that's when you strike. The audience laughed, but Maya's expression remained serious. I don't mean revenge, I mean success. I mean building something so undeniable that their opinion becomes irrelevant. I mean becoming so excellent at what you do that they have no choice but to see you. The Carmichael family thought I was nothing, Maya continued. A poor nurse who trapped their son. They never imagined I might be building an empire while they were building my isolation. They never thought to ask what I was doing on my laptop at 2 in the morning. They just assumed I was overwhelmed and helpless. Their assumptions cost them everything. My refusal to correct those assumptions gave me the space to become who I needed to be. After the speech, during the Q&A, a young woman in the back row raised her hand. How do you live with it? She asked. The revenge? Destroying a family? Maya considered the question carefully. I didn't destroy them. They destroyed themselves through their own cruelty. I just stopped protecting them from the consequences of their actions. She paused. And as for living with it, I sleep fine, because every morning I wake up to 2 little girls who know their worth, who understand that kindness matters, but so does strength, who will never let anyone make them feel small. That's not revenge, Maya said. That's justice. And sometimes justice looks like a woman who was supposed to be nothing, building something that matters. The final moment came on a Tuesday evening. Maya was home, helping the twins with homework, when her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Hello? Silence on the other end. Then, Maya, it's Eleanor. Maya's hand tightened on the phone. She hadn't spoken to her former mother-in-law in 5 years. How did you get this number? Derek gave it to me. Maya, I need to speak with you, please. Just 5 minutes. Against her better judgment, Maya agreed to meet. A coffee shop, public, safe. Eleanor looked old. That was Maya's first thought when she saw her sitting at a corner table. Not just older, old, diminished. The power and certainty that had once radiated from her like armor was gone. Thank you for coming, Eleanor said as Maya sat down. You have 5 minutes. Eleanor nodded. I'm dying. Pancreatic cancer. Stage 4. The doctors give me maybe 3 months. Maya felt nothing, no satisfaction, no pity. Just that same numbness that came whenever she thought about this woman. I'm sorry, Maya said, because it seemed like the thing to say. Don't be, I deserve it. Eleanor looked directly at her. I ruined your life because I thought you weren't good enough for my son. Because I was afraid you'd take him away from me. Because I'm a bitter, cruel woman who couldn't stand the idea of someone loving Derek more than I did. Why are you telling me this? Because I want to see my granddaughters. Before I die, just once. Maya had prepared for this moment for years, had imagined it, planned her response, rehearsed her rejection. But sitting across from a dying woman who'd caused so much pain, she found herself hesitating. "Do you know their names?" Maya asked. Eleanor blinked. "What? My daughters. Do you know their names?" "Of course, Sophia and Emma." "What are their favorite colors? What do they want to be when they grow up? What makes them laugh?" Eleanor opened her mouth, closed it. She had no idea. "You want to see them," Maya said quietly, "but you never wanted to know them. That's the difference between a grandmother and a stranger. Strangers just want the title. Grandmothers want the relationship." "Maya, please." "No." Maya stood up. "You had 5 years to be a grandmother. 5 years to apologize, to try, to show up in any way that mattered. You chose not to. You chose to nurse your bitterness and your resentment instead." She looked at Eleanor with something that might have been pity. "I'm sorry you're dying. I truly am, but I won't use my daughters to give you absolution. They're not props for your redemption arc. They're people. People you decided weren't worth knowing. When they're older, when they're 18 and can make their own choices, I'll tell them you wanted to see them. I'll show them the birthday cards you never sent, the holidays you missed, all the moments you chose not to be part of. And I'll let them decide if they want to know you." Maya picked up her purse. "But that's their choice, not mine, and definitely not yours." She left Eleanor sitting in the coffee shop, small and old and finally understanding the cost of her cruelty. That night, after the twins were asleep, Maya sat at her kitchen table with a glass of wine and her laptop. She opened a document she'd been writing for years, a letter to Sophia and Emma, to be read when they were old enough to understand. She added the final paragraph. "Your grandmother Eleanor asked to see you today. She's dying. I said no, and I want you to understand why. Not because I'm cruel, not because I hold grudges, but because loving you means protecting you from people who see you as objects rather than humans, who want to use you for their own purposes rather than know you for who you are. When you're older, if you want to find her, if you want to hear her story, if you want to build a relationship, I'll support you, because that will be your choice. But protecting you from people who don't value you, that's my job, and I'll never apologize for doing it well. Love, Mom." Maya saved the document and closed her laptop. Through the window, she could see the city lights spreading out in all directions. Somewhere out there, Eleanor Carmichael was facing her mortality. Derek was trying to become a better man. Victoria was rebuilding a quieter life. And Maya was right here, in a home filled with love and laughter and two little girls who knew exactly what they were worth. She'd started as someone who wanted to be loved. She'd become someone who knew how to love without needing validation, who understood that strength and kindness weren't opposites, but companions, who'd learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to let someone hurt you again. The Carmichael family had tried to teach her that money was power. Instead, she'd learned that self-respect was power, that boundaries were power, that knowing when to fight and when to walk away was power. And yes, having $340 million helped, but it wasn't the money that had saved her. It was the decision made in a rain-soaked moment outside those iron gates that she would never again let someone else define her worth. That decision had changed everything. 5 years later, on Sophia and Emma's 12th birthday, Maya took them to visit their grandfather's grave. The girls laid flowers and read the inscription. "What does it mean?" Sophia asked. "That money reveals people?" Maya thought about all the ways to explain this lesson. "It means that when someone has money, you see who they really are. Some people use it to build walls. Some use it to build bridges. Some use it to hurt people. Some use it to help." "What did you use it for?" Emma asked. Maya looked at her daughters, at their bright faces and confident eyes and the goodness in them that had survived everything. "I used it to protect you," she said simply, "and to prove that kindness and strength can exist in the same person, that you can be powerful without being cruel, that your worth isn't determined by what others think of you." "Did the bad family learn that?" Sophia asked. Maya considered the question. "I don't know, but I learned it. And now you know it too. That's what matters." They stood together at the grave, 3 generations of Sullivan women who'd learned the hardest lessons about love and loss and survival. And in that moment, Maya finally felt it. Not just peace, not just survival, victory. Not because she'd destroyed her enemies, But because she'd protected what mattered, built something that would outlast the pain, taught her daughters that they were enough, had always been enough, would always be enough. That was the real empire she'd built. Not $340 million, not a successful company, not revenge served cold, just two little girls who would grow up knowing their worth, who would never let anyone make them feel small, who understood that money might reveal people, but character defines them. Eleanor Carmichael died 3 weeks later, alone in her assisted living facility. Maya sent flowers to the funeral but didn't attend. She spent that day at the park with her daughters instead, teaching them how to fly kites and laughing when the wind took them higher than expected. Some stories don't have neat endings. Some villains never learn their lessons. Some wounds never fully heal. But some women learn that survival is its own form of victory. That protecting your children matters more than proving a point. That building a good life is the best revenge against people who tried to destroy you. Maya Sullivan had been called nothing by people who thought they mattered. She'd proven them wrong not by becoming like them, but by becoming better than them. And in the end, that was enough. 10 years after the trial, Maya sat in her office reading an email from Forbes. They wanted to feature her in their Women Who Changed Industries issue. The recognition was nice, but it wasn't why she did the work. She did it because every investment she made, every company she supported, every job she created, it was all in service of something bigger than revenge or vindication. It was in service of her father's lesson, the one she'd finally understood. Money doesn't change people. It reveals them. The Carmichael family's money had revealed their cruelty, their weakness, their fundamental emptiness. Maya's money had revealed her strength, her resilience, her refusal to let bitterness poison her future. She looked at the photos on her desk. Sophia and Emma, now 12, at their science fair. Both had won first place. Both wanted to be doctors. Both understood that helping people mattered more than impressing them. That was Maya's legacy. Not wealth, not revenge, not even justice. Just two girls who knew they were enough, who would never let anyone convince them otherwise, who understood that the best way to respond to cruelty wasn't to become cruel yourself. It was to become so undeniably good that the cruelty couldn't touch you anymore. Maya Sullivan had been thrown out in the rain with her newborn twins by people who thought she was nothing. 10 years later, she was a multimillionaire who changed an industry, saved thousands of lives, and raised two extraordinary daughters. The Carmichaels had given her the greatest gift imaginable. They'd underestimated her. And she'd spent every day since proving them wrong. Not through destruction, through creation, through building something so beautiful and strong that their cruelty became irrelevant. That was the real story, not about revenge, about refusing to let someone else's opinion define your worth, about discovering that you were always enough. You just needed to stop waiting for permission to believe it. Maya closed her laptop, picked up her phone, and texted her daughters. Early day. Want to get ice cream? The responses came back immediately. Yes, can we get 2 scoops? Maya smiled. You can have anything you want, babies, because you're worth it. You always were. And that finally was the end of the story. Not with a bang, not with revenge served cold, not with enemies destroyed, but with a mother taking her daughters for ice cream on a Tuesday afternoon, because that's what winning actually looks like.